A little informal talk. I'm starting to realise something. Basically, I pulled a master stroke. I didn't know I was going to pull a master stroke in life, but I pulled a master stroke. They call it's a master stroke purely from just being a working class person. A master stroke come about in a cultural realm that I wouldn't know how to define. Because when we listen to hip hop and we listen to certain stories, cultures, people around us, even today on something like this morning, the milk carton kids, police failures, possible police corruption, thus, like, why aren't they interested in some crimes? Because they are the undertakers of the crimes. That kind of stuff. All this cultural stuff, it's highly relevant. It's not always presented very well in a mainstream, but we meet them in our community. A hip hop collective pissed off NWA who said, firstly, fuck dull police, them, and things that pick up, and people sort of like they either demonise that demographic because they want to stay in the little bubbles, or they want to stay and think they're elite, or they want to say we are elite and oh god you are this or that or whatever. But then people come on through and then they realise that the systematic fouls are aplenty and they're shit and they're prevalent and they're hurting so many fucking people, but the elite really don't put the blinkers on and don't really expose it in a mainstream. So my master stroke come about from just being a town centre warden, having this sort of civic responsibility in a security role, and then finding myself on the wrong side of the law for absolutely fuck all other than using the legal drug alcohol, and being targeted after walking home alone as a lone woman by uniforms looking for provocation and stalking and following, and no reason for them in my presence, but they were. And so I responded verbally and got a CRB. And it pissed me off to fuck because I thought, well, there you go. That is one crooked fucking system and it really hurt my feelings. Let's go there. I'm not playing the victim drum. But anyway, moving forward, only last year they decided that they would be LGBT hate. They looked like preppy haters, really, like getting some sort of grimy little stolen interview out of you, looking at your personal correspondence to someone. It was so like leaving another layer of dirty, like, what is wrong with people on me kind of thing. And it's like, that's a common, I don't know if that's a common thing that happens in our community, that people get like persecuted in a uniform or just hate from uniforms. But I do know it exists, obviously. That wasn't originally why I come up with a social work franchisee. It was for homelessness. But then I kept realising that we need affluent wealth in our community on the streets, addressing this shit. Because I basically, town centre warden, ex-operations security supervisor, the road to arena, I work closely with the police. They come in and talk to me on a door level, the whole group of us, and they just, once again, shattered my perception of their decency in telling people how to get away with physical assault on a wage in the door supervisor role. So again, it just was just disheartening shit, all of it. And I'd like to class my background, my family as fucking decent, hardworking, and as good as it gets, really. Down to earth, actually quite, like what you'd say, quite frugal in a way, and sort of like be happy with what you got, people. And I just didn't realise how disimpoverished it was. It was in a sort of almost substandard state that a lot of people really live in. They're not encouraged to travel. It's like fear from the mainstream. It's always fear, always negatives. Especially as the youngest daughter, you always get the, shrink your life to a home life and don't live a broad life. So it's like, thank you for having this family that would let me sort of get the knowledge and have the jobs that I have, and then try to apply it in a community enterprise, a social worker franchisee brand. And I keep going on because it is a masterstroke, and people think you're not working, you're lazy, you're getting the marginalised bit, get sign on, get a job bit, but I'm a creative. And the work that I had to put in to do that masterstroke, don't underestimate the fucking spiritual work that had to go into it. It's like you're challenging the blues and twos, the blacks and whites, the police force as an entity. When you appealed to them and asked them why you were repeatedly assaulted in cuffs, the Independent Complaints Commission could not give a rat's arse. You were right to get arrested was the response, and I thought, that's no justice. You're allowing violence in your forces, what that told me. It told me a lot of things, and in that experience I just felt like, well, if they're not the justice, then make your own justice. You see stories like a woman that was battered by police, caught on camera, and nothing was given to her. She didn't get compensation, she didn't get support, she didn't get nothing. And you go, that's disgusting. So if there's not anybody out there on the streets doing something proactively, acting like basically what you would call citizens' advice and providing exceptional legal aid to people, like when you get a duty solicitor for the harassment from the police that I got, and they went, oh, it's your first offence, just plead guilty, get it out of the way, because otherwise you'll have to go to court. So I just did, and in court it got diminished to might have offended a member of the public by shouting at them or swearing at them. And I was like, I can live with that, but on paper it still reads like what the dickheads wrote down, and I call them dickheads because they allowed me to be tortured for an hour and a half in cuffs with a bag and a coat hanging off them. And I said everything that I say in this cage, with you three taking notes, is insubmissible in a court of law. Anything coming out of my mouth, because you're submitting me to low-level torture. And you know, you have to keep your wits about you in these situations when you're actually faced with what are enabled, facilitated animals. And yeah, it's not cool. It's really not nice. So you just take it and then say, well, a masterstroke is to not allow that, to not feel scared of them. You got to the point where you were scared of them, Laura, didn't you? You got scared, didn't you? Why should you feel scared? You shouldn't feel scared. You should have people to turn to. You should have the heavies on the streets to match that. If they really got into that to be people after justice, they would totally 100% be okay with what I propose in citizens' advice, in help, in aid, in things for solutions to homelessness, rather than keeping the draconian vibes around of disimpoverishedness. If there was distribution of wealth and an equilibrium in our society, where you have people making media content, you have a database of all the best surgeons and the healthcare and workers, so when you see injustices as well as the health ones where people don't get the right treatments in their own country because of budgets, you would be on it. Because we can provide a better society for all of us if we implement this one thing: social worker franchisee brand. Right for prime power to people right on time. It's that revolution you're after. It's capitalism. It's a capital business design. It's a franchisee making jobs for people. It's amazing. It's community connectivity technology. It's the best of our age being brought into a golden age because of intranets and internet, and how collectively we could really make a difference outside of what they've had made for us, which was always inferior to a really diverse collective community looking for the equilibrium in the wealth brackets. In the Western world, there is so much impoverishedness and suffering. And this whole COVID thing, I was like, this depression. People have got depressed and they're suffering like flu rates. They're just milking because everybody always lies, don't want to go to work because they've got the flu or they've got the cold. So they just made it come into pass that we would have that break, I suppose. I don't believe in the validity of corona, but I do believe in the human race. And I do believe it needs things to get easier for it. I do believe that people shouldn't have to stress about money. I do believe that I'm an idealist, and I do believe that I should not be challenged once more for the masterstroke that is actually quite exasperating. As a female, we are the stronger sex. They do carry children in their womb for 9 months. They are the stronger sex. There wouldn't be a man with a backbone or intelligence enough to actually implement what I am trying to, maybe. That's not putting down the male race. I just empathise with them my whole life and actually gravitate toward all the hip hop and the people that find themselves wanting to get out of their circumstance, which is not fair. And then they have the victim mentalities, or the people that take to proactive lyricism in rap and whatever. And so don't hate on me just for having a masterstroke that can potentially just, rather than implement violence, literally just be right on, spot on, engaging the global community potentially, like making our own big old teepee on this planet together, where justice is truly served. Voila. thank you for listening. Any help getting that made would be great, because I made one Kickstarter and it didn't have all the information in it. The other option is just get myself there singing and implement it myself, get a team together and do it. Tech development's needed, customizations of vans are needed, wet rooms with kit in the back, street presence, practicalities, and there's a lot to go into that wasn't in the original, which wherever I post this video I will put a link to. 14 quid that made. I think the next one will make 14 bill.